What's happening, everybody? I'm Neil Sponsel, lead singer of Moonshine Mafia, here with you. On my last post, my last stream, I was talking about music stuff and what we're going to do. And right now, what my plan is to create a show to where I'm going to have local bands. I'm going to call it Local Bands of Georgia. And that's where we're going to interview people of local bands and find out more of what they're doing, trying to promote their music, trying to get their music out there, and just basically trying to get people to start getting to know some of these bands and some of the artists that they're going to see. So I don't know how often I'm going to do this. It may be weekly, it may be monthly. Sometimes it's hard to pin down these musicians. But that's the objective that we're going to try and do. We're trying to, one, we want to boost our followers, and as well as any of the other local artists, we're going to be trying to get everybody on board with what they're trying to do as well. So basically, the first installment of what we're going to do now is I'm basically going to start out with just telling you a little bit about myself and how I got into the music industry. And as of right now, I do know who my first interview will be. That will be none other than Moonshine Mafia's own drummer, Jimmy Johnson. We don't have a date set for when we're going to do that, but if you do have any local artists that you would like for me to interview, then you can send me a message on our Moonshine Mafia Messenger, and I will get in touch with them and try to get them on, and we'll start interviewing all the people that's around the local scene in Georgia. So basically, I'm going to start off telling you how everything got started with me. So how everything got started is, as I was a young kid, I started hearing my dad sing around the house. He was a fantastic singer. He was more, he started out doing gospel music, and he was into oldies all the time. And when he was listening to oldies and singing oldies, man, I got sick of it as a kid. But now every time I hear oldies, it reminds me of my dad. But that's how pretty much everything got started with me, is just basically listening to my dad sing. When it comes down to it, there's a whole lot of family members that have musical talent. My cousin Alan is a great guitar player. He plays the harmonica like nobody's business, and he's a really good singer. Also, my cousin Adam, he's a very good guitar player. He's a very good singer as well. And then there is my Uncle Carl. He's a fantastic guitar player, and he's a great singer as well. So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. Definitely got music talent in the Sponsel family. And as of right now, my youngest daughter, Kayla, she's starting to get her feet wet and learning how the music industry kind of works at a young age. But when it got into it, I grew up in a time to where I guess you could say wasn't the most stable of growing up as a young kid, to where music was kind of my retreat, to where anything there were issues going on at home, and look, we all had issues growing up, but when there was any ever issues going on at home, I would just dive into music, and that was where I could go to get my escape. And where I would do that is I'd always be listening to the radio, but my mom would buy me a stack of blank cassettes. Any young people that are listening to that, yeah, the cassettes, you could just record it and put it in there, and you could always record the station that was on. But I would be recording the music that was on there, but I also was recording myself singing to the stuff, and I would pretend like I was the DJ for the intro and the outro of the songs. So that's kind of where everything got started as a young kid, is just I loved music. But realistically, how everything kind of started in the entertainment ordeal was I was in band in high school, and I played the trumpet, and I was in marching band, and I did everything of that nature. And then when I was graduating high school, which I'm out of Dallas, Georgia, I graduated from East Paulding High School, and when I graduated from there, I had a scholarship to Miami. And I was supposed to go to Miami for music, and that didn't necessarily happen. If you knew my dad, he was a little strong-minded, if you will, and he was like, no, computers are the thing. You're going to go into computer programming. So that's what I started off doing. I had no idea anything about computers, and I flunked out of college in 6 months. And then later on, back in 2003 is when I graduated from the Atlanta Broadcast Institute, to where once that transpired, I was in radio and TV for a while, but that just didn't really pan out. Later on, I'm not really for sure how much longer it was. There was the opportunity. I have three young girls at that time, 3 young daughters, and what was going on with that was there was some opportunities to go to Nashville and start doing music, and it was a really tough, well, it wasn't really a tough decision, but what was ending up going on there was I could go on tour and start living the dream of being on the road and doing music that I wanted to do, or I could be a full-time dad. And my kids, I chose to have them. I wanted to have them. And having 3 little girls at that time, having an absentee dad just wasn't an option for me. So I decided that I was going to put music on the back burner, and if it happened, it happened. But if it didn't, it didn't. But I was happy with the decision of I was going to be an active father in my kid's life, and that was the most important thing to me. So lo and behold, as time was coming around, I had gotten divorced, and times were tough, and I was living in a bad situation, and I had an opportunity where one of my friends, his name is John Webb, I asked him, I said, hey, can you take us in? We're in a bad spot. And he was like, for a friend, absolutely. If you don't know John Webb is piano player for 88 Grand. You can check them out on Facebook, and they have music on all the streaming platforms. So what ended up happening is I lived with him for a little while, and he started playing piano. At one time, he was trying to get me to write lyrics for some of the music that he was doing, and that was years ago, and I just kind of stiff-armed him. I just wasn't ready at that point to really get back into music, but he kept playing, and words started flowing, and this was back in 2017, to where I just started writing like crazy. He was writing music, I was writing lyrics, and things were just kind of going off. It was freaking awesome. It was a great time. We started recording stuff in-house. Wasn't the best recording of all time. If you want any really good recording, then you need to see Donnie Hammond's in the After Dark studio. That's where you need to have recordings done. But so we were doing in-house recordings, and it was what it was. It was a piano player and a voice, and but my kids were always asking me, how come you don't do anything? And I was like, well, I can't go out into the big scene and do all this stuff. I've got you girls here still. You're a little bit older than you were, but I'm still not leaving you to do that. And they were like, you have got to do this. Do stuff locally. You don't have to go out on tour and be this mega star or whatever that everybody strives to be. It's like, but you got to go out there and you got to sing and you got to do something. So it was really my kids telling me, you got to do this. And it was John Webb who had kind of brought me out of my shell in order to start writing again, start singing again. And about that time, we had been doing that for a couple years. And I decided at that time that I'm going to try out for The Voice. I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait in these long lines of American Idol. I'm going to go to The Voice. Well, I had a 1:30 appointment. And then when I get there for that 1:30 appointment, everybody had a 1:30 appointment. So it was no different than trying out for American Idol. Well, after waiting hours and hours and hours to be able to get in there, to get in one of the rooms for the judges to hear you, I kind of was at that point to where, am I going to do something? Am I not? If I get shot down and nothing goes right, then I'm probably just going to not do it anymore. Well, I did my thing. They really, really enjoyed it and said, hey, you are meant to do this. This is not the show for you, but you've got to do something with music. Come back. And I decided, you know what, the shows were just not for me. It was a long, drawn-out process, and I knew that I could get some other stuff going. So that's when I came back and I said, Webb, we got to get something together. And that's when everything started kind of rolling. But once we started trying to figure that part out, I had posted something to get some other band members. And that was when Steve Woodruff from Spanky's Monkey, he hit me up and he said, hey man, I might be interested in getting you out there to sing with us. There's possibility of you singing for us. And I went out to Mia's and Hiram. And I had talked to Steve for a little while. And I went out there and I saw Mia's. They don't do live music anymore. And I got to meet all the guys. I got to meet Steve finally, Mitch Stiles, Brad Dart, and they were all getting ready to play it. Spanky's Monkey, go check them out if you've never seen them. But so I got on stage, and boy, I was a deer caught in headlights, if you will. It was the first time I had been on stage in many, many years. But after doing that, I was like, this is freaking awesome. I caught the bug a little bit. But at that time, I was trying to maybe create my own thing and see what was going to happen with it. And that's when I had someone answer an ad for a drummer. And it was Jimmy Johnson. It's my brother from another mother. And it was freaking awesome, I tell you that much, to be able to meet him. And it was kind of a divine intervention, really, for meeting Jimmy, because that kind of changed the direction of when and how I got into music. Webb had sparked it, and then Jimmy really took a hold and led me by the hand and was like, hey man, this is how things work. And if you don't know Jimmy Johnson, he's a legend in the business. He has been a guitar player, a bass player, and this was the first time he ever had the opportunity to be a drummer in a band. And he always got to play drums for his dad, and so it meant a whole lot for him to have the opportunity to be able to play drums for a band. So at that time, it was me, John on keyboard, Jimmy was on drums, and Jeremy Bethune was our guitar player at the moment. So bringing in other band members. The next person that we had was Zach Taylor. He became our bass player. and then later on Lance Gamir had become our guitar player. The original idea was, good segue, original, was we were going to do original music. And that was, if you don't really know in the music industry, that's a really kind of tough ordeal to do without really creating a fan base to where you're able to start doing your own stuff. So what ended up happening was we decided, hey, we're going to be doing covers just like everybody else, maybe doing things a little bit different. And then later on, as we get into the mix, then we'll be able to start putting our originals in. Well, things kind of happened at that moment to where that wasn't something John wanted to do at the moment. He really wanted to do the originals. So he went and decided to do his own thing. And my buddy Jeremy Bethune, he ended up moving to Pennsylvania. So he wasn't able to be a guitar player. So it ended up being, at that time, it was myself, it was Jimmy, it was Zach, and it was Lance. So we got really started in 2020. It was the birth of Moonshine Mafia, if you will. And we crammed really, really hard to be able to get on stage. We were hungry. We wanted to make things happen. And it was 3 months later that Sean White from Off the Grid, he said, "Hey, look, man, we're going to put you up on stage, let you do your thing, and we'll see what happens." And it was at Hangar 92, and Sean took care of us. He gave us the rub, said, "Hey, we got a new band that's trying to make a name for themselves, getting them up on stage." And so Sean and Off the Grid played a pivotal part into Moonshine Mafia getting started, to where, they shared the stage with us. They gave us an opportunity to do it. And he's like, "Hey, man, you got 3 songs." We ended up playing 6. But it was a fun time. We was able to do that. So it was pretty awesome. And then from there, we played all the time. And it was a good 2.5-year run, I would say, into where things happened to where we had an opportunity to where we had to get a new bass player. We had to get a new guitar player, and that is when we added Will Drew, and we added Brian Watson, and we had about 6 months, basically 6.5 months, to where it was a rebuilding process of getting us back on track. And that's basically what ended up happening. Our first show back was January 21st at Cinema Tavern. And that was an absolutely fantastic show. It was standing room only. And it was a good welcome back. I mean, when you're gone for 6 months or so, you're not necessarily for sure how everybody is going to respond to you coming back. And with the new addition of Will Drew and Brian Watson, it was absolutely fantastic. And it blew me away. In the process, Jimmy Johnson had written a couple of original songs, and I went into the After Dark studio with Donnie Hammond's. Donnie Hammond's awesome, absolutely awesome producer, great performer, fantastic musician, one of the best in the business, no doubt about it. I can't say enough good things about Donnie Hammond's. And we recorded a couple original songs. If you don't follow us, we're on Spotify. Moonshine Mafia is on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We have 2 channels. Now, here's the tricky thing. We have our own channel that we have, but also the distribution DistroKid also auto-generates a channel. So there's 2 channels on Moonshine Mafia. One is automatically generated, but we also have our Moonshine Mafia official page, if you will. We're on Instagram. Obviously, we're on Facebook. But we went in there, put down those songs. Those songs are doing very, very well. Enjoying them. I've also had the opportunity to work with award-winning songwriter Tony Black, to where I have recorded a couple songs that he has written. There again, After Dark Studio. That's the only person I want to work with is Donnie Hammond on recording. And those songs are doing really well also. The songs that I recorded that Tony Black had written is 18 and Goodbye. And you can also find that on Spotify, YouTube as well. The ones that Moonshine Mafia has recorded, those songs are Caution to the Wind and One Hell of a Night. You can go on and check those out. If you do subscribe to our YouTube channels, first look for the one that has the black jug with wings. Same deal on Instagram, Spotify. You'll see us on there, and it has the icon with the black wing, the jug with black wings as well. And our designer for that is Chris Snyder. He designed all the stuff that our merchandise that we have, like I'm wearing right here. So I want you guys to, spread the word on helping us get followers on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. But as I was saying, kind of got off on a little bit of tangent there, but that's basically how I got into the music industry. It all started with, like I said, my dad, John Webb. He brought it out of me. My kids let me know that, hey, you got to do this, and it just kind of went on from there. And my buddy, me and Jimmy Johnson, we worked really hard on getting things off the ground, and now having the addition of Will Drew and Brian Watson, it's fantastic. And it really also helps to have a supportive wife. My wife, Misty, she has given me so much support. She's been to pretty much every single show. I think she's missed one in almost 3 years. So that's freaking awesome. So it helps to have a support system at home. There's no doubt about that. But as I was stating earlier, this new show, which will be on YouTube as well, I'll put this on YouTube probably tomorrow. So if you miss an episode, you'll be able to go to our YouTube channel, which is The Black Jug with Wings. And this show is going to be called Local Bands of Georgia, to where we're going to be supporting tons of local artists. I want to interview local artists around Georgia. I want to stay in Georgia because, this is where I'm from. And there's so much awesome talent that is out there that needs some exposure, and we all need to stick together. There's plenty of shows, there's plenty of room for us all to do what needs to be done, and we got to stick together and help each other out. Also, like I was saying beforehand, if you have any ideas on people for me to interview, then you can send me a message on our Moonshine Mafia Messenger. You can send it on my Facebook page, Neil Allen Sponsel. And hey, check this person out. You might want to be able to interview these guys. Also, I want to get these local bands merchandise. I want to wear them while I'm interviewing people on the show. There's so many artists out there in local Georgia that, we just need to support. And, it's not just Moonshine Mafia. We want everyone to be, just like you said, Alan, inspire artists. Inspire artists to get out there and do something and make things happen, because you need a little bit of push. I admire anybody that steps on stage and gives the attempt. Excuse me, I'm going to drink out of my Moonshine Mafia cup for a second. But I want to help local artists. And, I mean, it's going to be a win-win for everybody. So we need followers. We need subscribers to be able to check out these shows. I'm going to let everybody know I'm going to let everybody know ahead of time of what's going on. All right, so Adam, you asked what artists inspire your music. Wow, that's a great question. Well, your Uncle Neil, my dad, he inspired me right from the beginning to be able to hear a voice like that and live with it for as long as I did. That was pretty inspiring. But I would say some of the big voices, Freddie Mercury, I mean, wow, what an amazing talent there. He's probably my number one is Freddie Mercury. He was just a beast of a voice and just great band. I'd have to say Chris Cornell. Unfortunately these guys are not with us, but Chris Cornell was another big one. But to be perfectly honest with you, Adam, the ones that really inspire me the most is when I'm going out to these local scenes and I'm seeing all these bands just pouring out their heart on stage, and it's just awesome to see. There's so many local bands I could spill out. I can name a few, but I don't want to leave anybody out. But I tell you, one of the local artists that I would say has inspired me as far as performance and vocally would probably be Eddie Smith from Mad Margaret. Guy has a beast of a voice, and what a showman! Absolutely fantastic. Another one I would have to say is definitely Donnie Hammond. I can't say enough about him. My goodness. Donnie Hammond is one of the best guitar players I've ever seen, one of the best performers I've ever seen, and just fantastic. I would say another person that has inspired me is how much I've learned from Jimmy Johnson. That is one of my best friends, no doubt about it, but he's played everything. He's done it for many, many years. He's a living legend in this business, and that's freaking awesome too. I would say another person in the local scene that I've watched that is just amazing is Sean Bennett from Crazy Heart. Man, what a performer! It's a very tight band. Great to just see him work on stage. And like I said, there are so many local artists out there that we've got to support and continue to push. And, Moonshine Mafia is one of them, but we're just one of many of the local artists that are there. So, we just want to continue to do what we're doing, but we want to support everybody. You'll see me sometimes, I'll say in a post or a live stream is, if you don't come see Moonshine Mafia, go see somebody. And I mean that wholeheartedly, because, we've got to support the local musicians. We've got to support the local venues that are hosting these bands. Because a lot of these places, that's what they do. And some of these musicians that I'm going to be interviewing, that's all they do also. So we'll probably we'll have an opportunity to talk to some signed artists, but the main focus is definitely talking to the local band scene. Again, this is Local Bands of Georgia. I don't think I have anything else to go on, but my first official interview will be Jimmy Johnson. Moonshine Mafia's own drummer. That will be coming at a later date, and I'll let you know when that's going to happen. I appreciate everybody that is tuned in. I'll continue to keep you posted on what's going to be happening. Again, follow us on Spotify, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, spread the word, and just continue to help all those local artists. Again, this is kind of the temporary ordeal that I'm starting out with, but I wanted to start somewhere and help as many local bands as I can possibly help out. So appreciate you guys showing up and watching. Again, Neil Sponsel, lead singer of Moonshine Mafia, and this has been the first episode of Local Bands of Georgia.